Red Cow Entertainment is a YouTube channel I first encountered over 15 years ago when the channel's owner, a guy called Frankie Frayne, uploaded a comical animated short titled Lord of the Rings by George Lucas. It made fun of how bad a director George Lucas actually is in reality, and how he would have ruined the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Of course, this was long before Peter Jackson would ruin the Lord of the Rings himself, and several years before Red Letter Media would blow up with their Mr. Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. So yeah, this was pioneering stuff by Red Cow Entertainment, and over the years, the video has garnered close to 2.5 million views on YouTube. It's definitely something I remember enjoying in my youth, in the long ago, when I didn't have to eat prunes. That was the last I ever heard of Red Cow Entertainment, and indeed I doubt Frankie Frayne called his channel anything so deliberately branded back in 2006, when YouTube was still just a place to watch cat videos, and some nerd who was really mad about video games. But recently I rediscovered this channel when doing research for a video about some nerd who gets really mad about video games. Suddenly, the YouTube algorithm decided that I wanted to hear people dump on the angry video game nerd, which has become pretty much a full-time occupation for some people. One of the best videos to come my way was Red Cow Entertainment's podcast spin-off channel, where Frankie Frayne and fellow Red Cow Entertainment member, EJ, talk about things I probably don't care about.
Well, I have a lot to say about Pogs.
Do you?
I really don't get podcasts. But this time they were talking about the angry video game nerd, and they did a really great job of it. And with 58,000 plus views, this video has become one of their most successful of all time. But if you're one of Red Cow's regular followers, then you probably know them not for their podcasts or their ancient critique of George Lucas. No, most likely you're a fan of BoxMac, one of the best kept secrets on YouTube, a web series with, as of writing this, 165 quality episodes, including elaborate holiday specials and a small legion of devoted fans that consistently bring in tens of thousands of views with every episode. So what is BoxMac? It's a cooking show starring a big jolly dude named Junt, short for Jonathan Hunt, who cooks stovetop macaroni and cheese products, like the kind made by Kraft Heinz Corporation. And essentially that's the joke, which is driven home by the fact that Junt wears a full-blown chef's uniform for every episode to make boxed Kraft dinner. It's great. But a how-to show would be over after one episode, considering the fact that a kid could easily make boxed mac and cheese. So the real impetus for the show is an endless quest to cook and eat the best boxed macaroni and cheese in the entire world. And as it turns out, there are a lot of potential candidates. That's awesome, but their taste testing is only done by a few people, and I have to tell you, the results of BoxMac's search for the best mac and cheese have been a bit controversial. Most problematic to us, Creative Cat Productions, is the claim that Annie's boxed macaroni and cheese is crap.
Annie's.
Annie's.
Annie's can go itself.
We've got a couple things coming up. One's an Annie's. Watch out, folks.
Cat piss.
Really, guys? It's that bad? I've always been under the impression that Annie's made the best boxed macaroni and cheese in the world. I mean, it's expensive. It's sold at Whole Foods.
No, I've only ever shopped at a Whole Foods twice in my whole life. Hoity-toity, high-end for the riche.
It says it's organic, and it has a cute little bunny on the box. How could it be anything but awesome? To Red Cow's credit, on BoxMac episode 24, way back in 2015, they did eventually explore Annie's, and they didn't really like it that much.
Dry.
Yeah, very low flavor.
This is some weak mac and cheese for high price.
Yeah.
Of course it is. We knew this.
The pasta's very good, though. It's dull, it's bland.
They ain't faring well so far, folks.
It's not great. It's not great.
At first, but then after trying a bunch of different varieties, they did concede that Annie's makes a good white cheddar.
Much more flavor.
Yeah, better than the last one, certainly.
Significant amount of flavor.
As far as white cheddar, Max, this is one of the better I've had, certainly.
But they were torn on the flavor of Annie's most beloved mac and cheese, the shells with aged cheddar, considered by many to be the greatest boxed mac and cheese of all time.
Hey, I kind of like it.
Why is it striking me as bland?
So what do these guys prefer? After watching quite a few episodes myself, it seems their consistent favorites are basic bitch Kraft macaroni and cheese, the original boxed mac that a lot of people remember eating as kids, or, if you're Canadian, every night for dinner with ketchup.
I wonder what the poor people are doing.
And their other favorites are Velveeta with shells and Cracker Barrel, which is named after a brand of Canadian cheddar. And what do all three of these brands have in common? Well, they're all made by Kraft Frankenfoods. Wait a minute, are you guys shilling for Kraft Heinz? Do they work for Kraft? Well, Red Cow Entertainment is from somewhere in this forgotten region of Massachusetts, where they no longer even have a Ponderosa steakhouse.
Are there still Ponderosas out there?
None in our area, certainly.
So the food was good?
It was all right.
And there's no Kraft facilities or offices located around there either. Frankie Frayne, from what I gather, is a full-time filmmaker.
Let me be clear. Not actually cinematic, but like kind of like almost satires of cinema. Like I'm a dude in my bedroom, but I'm getting creative with the camera,
And Junt has a job somewhere, and I'm guessing it's in IT for some reason.
I am an engineer. I design test systems for industrial printers. I program, do a lot of programming, all that kind of stuff. That's what I do for a living, folks.
But it's definitely not at the Kraft Sludge Factory. Anyway, all of this had us asking, what really is the best boxed mac and cheese? I thought it was supposed to be Annie's. I'm pretty sure that according to the CDC, the National Institute of Health, the World Health Organization, and the teachers' unions, that Annie's boxed mac and cheese is the best in the world.
Just do what we say and stop asking questions.
Anyway, just in case, we thought that we better go ahead and find out for ourselves. That's why for the last angina-ridden week, I have forced Creative Cat Productions, that is myself, my wife, and our 4 children, to eat 11 different boxes of low-grade macaroni and highly processed cheese, so that we can determine for ourselves if Annie's boxed mac and cheese, specifically the widely praised shells with aged cheddar, was really the best boxed mac ever made. Going up against Annie's, we chose 3 opposing brands with nearly identical descriptions. Kraft 3 cheeses with shells, Walmart's Great Value 3 cheeses with shells, and H-E-B's shells with cheddar. And then, just for fun, we tried the Baby Shark boxed mac, which has no obvious food brand affiliation other than Nickelodeon. But since it's a Walmart exclusive, I assume it's just Great Value. Most of our viewers will be familiar with Kraft, since they practically invented processed cheese back in 1916, and then introduced the world to boxed macaroni and cheese in 1937 with their Kraft macaroni and cheese dinners. Thanks to the need to feed soldiers food with a long shelf life in the First World War, the austerity of the Great Depression, and the need to ration foods like meat and cheese during the Second World War, the Kraft Frankenfoods Corporation had a meteoric rise to the top-earning U.S. companies, almost entirely on the foundation of widespread global misery and death. Kraft macaroni and cheese. We thrive whenever humanity fails. Which is a lot like Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, the makers of Zoloft and Lipitor. Pfizer, just take it. We also suspect that most of our viewers are familiar with Walmart and their Great Value generic brand, which honestly often offers a decent low-cost alternative for certain items. Walmart started off as nothing more than a small Arkansas-based general store that got so obsessed with cost-cutting and the constant improvement of business practices that by the 1990s it became the most successful company in the world. This, of course, scared the hell out of a lot of people who hate providing rural Americans with an efficient, low-cost alternative to driving 50 miles into polluted cities to buy food and basic necessities. Until, of course, Amazon.com finally eclipsed Walmart in recent years, becoming the new #1 company on Earth, with its very own super evil mad genius founder, who would totally feed poor Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, to the freaking sharks with laser beams, if he was given the chance, of course, because Sam Walton went on to Jesus back in 1992, where there are no more tears or death or mourning over loss and pain, and the old order of things passes away, being transfigured into something good, beautiful, and new. Which reminds me, H-E-B is a brand that some of you may not have heard of, because it's a local chain of grocery stores here in Texas. Here everything is better, and you'd better believe it. In 2019, USA Today rated H-E-B as the #1 grocery store in Texas. In 2020, Business Insider ranked H-E-B as the #1 grocery store in America, beating out Trader Joe's, Amazon, Costco, Aldi, all of them. And I completely agree. When COVID lockdowns hit the nation early in 2020, chaos ruled the day and people flocked to stores that were ill-equipped to deal with panic buying. Not at H-E-B. They quickly enacted effective rationing measures that made sure we never completely ran out of toilet paper, because they simply didn't allow silly shit like that to happen. Further, while many store shelves were completely bare, somehow, shopping at H-E-B always felt a bit more normal, a bit less like Venezuela. Prior to the pandemic, my wife and I always preferred to do our shopping at Trader Joe's, having had experience living in California, you know, 'cause we're like cool and stuff. But during COVID, we had trouble even being able to get in the doors of Trader Joe's, which decided to bottleneck shoppers into these massive socialist utopian breadlines that took forever to get through. So out of desperation, we fled to the normal people grocery store, H-E-B, and boy, were we missing out. Not only were the prices better than Trader Joe's, but the quality of the food was head and shoulders above the competition. There's nothing really special about being inside of an H-E-B. It doesn't have a coffee bar or wood paneling or any fancy features. It's just that it delivers where it really matters: cost and quality of the products it carries. That's why we had to compare their version of shells with cheddar over and against Annie's. If Annie's is really the best ever, then it's gotta be better than H-E-B too. But just to be sure Annie's dominance isn't just a fluke of a single product variety, we went ahead and got Annie's Deluxe Boxed Macaroni and Cheese. Unlike regular boxed macaroni and cheese, deluxe varieties eschew the powdered cheese packets in favor of more wholesome fluorescent orange packets of processed gooey cheese, removing the extra steps of having to reconstitute a powder with milk and butter. This is more convenient for many people, tends to taste better, and is also significantly more expensive. Going up against Annie's Deluxe is H-E-B, Great Value, Kraft, Velveeta with Shells, and Cracker Barrel, the latter two being varieties that are hailed as the best on Red Cow's Box Mac YouTube series. Once again, if Annie's is really the best, it should be able to beat out comparable deluxe varieties. Thus, for about a week, every single day, I serve my family boxed mac. The damage to their kidneys, heart, and liver are hard to imagine. But these are the kinds of sacrifices required by science, and we aren't the kind of people who oppose science. So please don't call CPS to our house. This was all done for a good cause. Anyway, we made each mac exactly according to the instructions printed on the box. Then I prepared a small bowl for myself, my wife, Lauren, our oldest daughter, our oldest son, and our youngest daughter. Our 1-year-old son was excluded from participation. Then I asked my family members to rate the mac on a 5-point scale. 5 means they'd serve it for Christmas dinner to guests. 4 means they really liked it a lot. 3 means it's just okay, but they'd eat it again. 2 means it's just okay, but they'd never want to buy it again. And 1 means they hated it. And 0? Well, 0 means I accidentally served them a bowl of oatmeal with wholesome raisins. Oops.
I'm sorry, where was I?
Ideally, I would have administered samples of mac and cheese without letting anyone know what brand they were receiving, in order to prevent prejudiced minds from coloring the results. However, after the oatmeal incident, no one trusted me, so everyone insisted on making sure they knew what mac they were about to eat. I let it slide. However, since my 5-year-old daughter rated every single mac a perfect 5 out of 5, no matter what we were eating, her scores are excluded from our final results, since it skewed our numbers. Her reasoning for doing this? All mac and cheese, no matter what, is a perfect 5. If only that were true. So without further ado, here are our results. At the very bottom of our 11 box macs was the great value 3 cheeses with shells, with an average score of 2 out of 5. No one in our family wants to eat this again, with the exception of our daughter, Hannah, who gave this mac and cheese and every other a perfect 5 out of 5. We thought the noodles were pretty wimpy, and the cheese sauce didn't really taste like cheese at all, but had an oddly sweet flavor. I don't know why, but to me it tasted like the DMV, if the DMV was edible. The good news about great value shells with cheese is that it's far and away the cheapest option that we tried, at 34 cents for a 7.5 ounce box, which is the standard size for a boxed mac and cheese. That's under a nickel an ounce. Other than that, this stuff isn't very good. It's not disgusting, but it's not worth buying unless all you want to spend is 34 cents a box. Then I guess it's okay. The 10th best tasting mac and cheese was Kraft Deluxe, with an average taste test score of 2.5. Now, I personally really like this mac, though, as with most of the deluxes, I found the pasteurized cheese to be too salty for my tastes. The kids didn't like how thick the noodles were, and everyone agreed that it was way too salty. Though I'm pretty sure the Red Cow crew would like this. Look how they salt their saucepan before boiling.
We got 6 cups of water in there. We're gonna use 50 grams of salt.
Holy moly! Anyway, we paid a whopping $2.77 for this box of mac. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe we got caviar on accident. Caviar. The 9th best tasting mac was the Great Value Deluxe Boxed Mac, which confirms for us that Walmart doesn't really make the best boxed mac and cheese. We gave it a 2.75 out of 5. Once again, I kind of actually like this. It has nice big chewy noodles, which I prefer, but my kids certainly didn't. And as with most of the deluxes we tried, the flavor was too salty for our tastes. Still, this was definitely better than the Walmart shelves with 3 cheeses, because this actually tasted a bit more like cheese. And at $1.48 a box, this is by far the cheapest deluxe mac and cheese we found on the shelves. But oddly, this stuff also had the least amount of protein per ounce for any mac that we tested. We have no idea what they use for these Walmart mac and cheeses, but it doesn't seem to be as much milk and cheese as the other brands. The 8th best box mac is a controversial one, because we only gave Cracker Barrel a 3.25 out of 5 as a family. And if I recall correctly, this is one of Red Cow's very favorite boxed macaroni and cheeses.
It's really, really good.
It's good.
It's
It tastes like real cheese.
Yeah.
Like real cheese.
it's Velveeta plus.
Oh, it's very good though, isn't it?
You don't encounter that very often.
Yeah.
That complete satisfaction.
Well, it actually tastes to me like I've made a roux with a lot of cheese in it. They're really good noodles. They have a textured ridging on them that's really helping to keep the cheese in. Very good.
One of the highest deluxes of all time.
Yeah, I think so.
But the difference in perspective might have a lot to do over divergent attitudes about very salty foods. Once again, that's a lot of salt. And all of the deluxe style boxed mac and cheeses tasted salty to us. I have no idea why that is, because all these boxed macs have a lot of salt by virtue of what they are. Cheese is typically very salty by itself, but what's surprising is that Cracker Barrel has about 30% less salt than all the other varieties that we tried, save one. At least that's how it's written on the box. That being said, I personally loved Cracker Barrel. I thought the noodle was nice and robust, and that it had a nice sharp flavor that tasted like actual cheese. But it was pretty salty to taste, despite the package indicating otherwise. My son thought it was so salty, he couldn't eat it. And my wife thought the cheese flavor was rancid. We paid a whopping $3.48 for Cracker Barrel. Fancy. The 7th best mac by taste test was the Baby Shark mac and cheese. While the flavor was a bit on the weak side, everyone seemed to like the chewy texture of the noodles, which happened to be shaped like baby sharks. To me, while this was probably part of the Great Value line done by Walmart, it tasted a lot more like traditional Kraft mac and cheese, only slightly weaker on flavor. It's a pretty inoffensive flavor for the price of 50 cents a box. This is a pretty good value. Not bad. We give Baby Shark Mac 3.5 out of 5. The 6th best box mac by taste was H-E-B's Deluxe Mac and Cheese. Mostly, we enjoyed this one, but my son pulled down the score because he thought the cheese sauce was too runny and thin. Plus, he didn't like the smaller noodles. The noodles, I have to admit, were on the wimpy side, but the sauce was very flavorful and had that authentic smelly feet taste that cheese people seem to love so much. Honestly, for me, the only drawback against this mac would be the slippery texture of it all. It's good. We paid $1.78 for H-E-B Deluxe, and we give this box mac a score of 3.75 out of 5. The 5th best box mac by taste was the more traditional Kraft shells with 3 cheeses. We all thought that this was great and more or less representative of what a box mac should taste like. Abe and I, however, thought the shells were kinda thick in relation to the smallish amount of sauce that it came with. The flavor was great though, and it tasted like a good box of Kraft. We probably would have given it a higher score if this were elbow pasta. Also, it's worth pointing out that this mac has a bit more protein than average, about 30 grams a box, which isn't too bad for a carby side dish. However, this also contains far and away the most salt of any of the 11 box macs that we tested, with about 2,250 milligrams a box, or about 100% of your recommended daily value of salt intake. Granted, that would only be true if you ate the entire box, which is almost 1,100 calories, when prepared according to the directions.
And you're not gonna do that, right? What are you, an animal?
We paid 98 cents for this box, and we give it a solid 4 out of 5. Now we're getting into the real winners here, because these last 4 boxed macs were universally loved by our family. At number 4, we have Annie's Deluxe Shells with Aged Cheddar. I particularly like this because of the quality of the sauce and the sharpness of the flavor. I gave this 5 out of 5, and everyone more or less agreed that this was a great tasting and quality mac, but the consensus was that the cheese packet was just too small. Not enough sauce to be perfect. And if you see the packet here, which was the nicest looking of all 11, you'll see that it's roughly 30% smaller than what you'd typically get.
Where's the beef?
At the same time, the salt content of this mac is considerably less than the typical box mac. As with Cracker Barrel, it's about 30% lower than something like a box of Kraft. 30% less cheese, 30% less salt. That kind of makes sense. An entire box of Annie's Deluxe Shells with Aged Cheddar, despite being a bit larger by volume, is still only 990 calories compared to 1,100. So having a smaller cheese packet probably helps keep this mac on the slightly leaner side. Not that this is a health food. We paid $2.98 for just over 11 ounces of cheesy pasta for a deluxe package, which typically comes in a 14-ounce box. That difference makes Annie's Deluxe the most expensive box mac that we bought. Ounce for ounce, this mac is more than 5 times as expensive as Walmart's Great Value box mac. The main difference though? This was delicious. We give Annie's Deluxe 4.25 out of 5. The 3rd best box mac is none other than Annie's famous Shells with Cheddar. The mac we predicted would come out at number 1. That did not happen, so our assumption that Annie's was obviously the best was wrong, at least as far as our family is concerned. However, I will point out that our family preferred Annie's over Red Cow Entertainment's preferred Cracker Barrel by a wide margin.
It's very good too.
We also preferred it to the more conventional Kraft brand by a wide margin as well.
Go ninja, go ninja.
Go ninja, go ninja, go! Go ninja, go ninja, go! Go ninja, go ninja, go!
Word to your mother.
I personally love this mac and cheese. The noodles are smallish, but they're a good quality pasta. and they provided the perfect texture in relation to the cheese sauce. The cheddar was both sharp and creamy. It pretty much tastes homemade. My daughter Claire was speechless. She liked this so much. Lauren, my wife, my muse, my love, thought this was almost as good as our family's #1 pick. Another noteworthy feature of Annie's shells with cheddar is that it's almost half as much salt as Kraft. We give this mac a 4.5 out of 5. We highly recommend it. We paid $1.18 for Annie's, which sounds good, except keep in mind Annie's contains only 6¼ ounces of pasta as opposed to a full 7½. It's not that expensive, but you get a lot less. You're gonna be a little extra hungry when you eat this one. The second best box mac actually tied with our first place pick for #1. In terms of taste, our family unanimously gave these last two macs a 5 out of 5 score. But only one can be the best. So at #2, we have H-E-B's Shells with Cheddar, a mac that's honestly very similar to Annie's, but even more flavorful, and for a lot less money. You can get a full-sized 7½ ounce box of H-E-B mac and cheese for 68 cents, which makes it less than half as expensive as Annie's ounce for ounce. And if you like a little protein in your diet, then rejoice, for just as with Kraft, a box of H-E-B shells and cheddar contains 30 grams of protein. But at nearly 1,200 calories a box, this was also one of the most calorically dense macs that we tested. Indeed, only Walmart's Great Value Shells with Cheese was slightly more dense. H-E-B Shells with Cheddar is a fantastic box mac, 5 out of 5. But you can only get this if you live in a Texas city or town that also happens to have an H-E-B. But our #1 choice can be had at pretty much any grocery store. And the #1 boxed mac and cheese, according to the official Creative Cat Productions taste test, is Velveeta with Shells, which also happens to be one of Red Cow Entertainment's top choices as well.
My favorite mac.
So even though we kind of besmirched the good name of Kraft and totally cheesed all over their beloved Canadian Cracker Barrel, which is also just a Kraft product, at the very least we have established some common ground by picking Velveeta with Shells as our #1. And it's also just another Kraft product, by the way. Kraft, 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 everything is Kraft. The oligarchs win the day. This was our first time trying Velveeta anything, but we kind of liked the texture of the sauce and noodles and the boldness of the cheesy flavor. We also liked the way everything stuck together. This mac could have been served as part of a complete Christmas dinner. It was that good. It's also a slightly lower calorie option. In fact, all of the deluxes on our list are about 90 calories an ounce, making them half as calorically dense as a conventional box of Kraft or the H-E-B Shells with Cheddar. Deluxes tend to contain the same total amount of calories per box, but that's because the deluxe packages come with about 60% more uncooked pasta. We paid $2.98 for this excellent box of mac and cheese. So there you have it. According to our taste test, Annie's boxed mac and cheese is not bad. By any means, we gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. However, we were surprised that it was beaten out by both H-E-B store brand and this Velveeta yellow boxed monstrosity. Who knew that a box of processed cheese that looks like it belongs alongside motor oil or cleaning products could be so delicious? But it was. I loved Red Cow Entertainment's oft-cited Cracker Barrel, but everyone else more or less hated it, so it didn't even go into our top 5. However, I will point out that if we considered caloric density, sodium content, and total protein of each boxed mac as a kind of semi-health index, Cracker Barrel comes out way on top. It has the least calories per ounce, a reasonable amount of protein, and despite tasting like the ocean, claims to have 30% less salt than Kraft. Somehow, Annie's Shells with Cheddar would take the #2 spot here. By far the least healthy options would be both of Walmart's Great Value Macs, neither of which tasted very good in spite of having the most calories, the most salt, and the fewest grams of protein per box. Walmart's Shells with Cheddar is, however, also far and away the cheapest offering here at 34 cents a box. So I guess you get what you pay for in this instance. If, however, we were to rank our 11 box mac and cheeses according to all of these factors, giving more weight to the flavor above either cost or semi-healthfulness, then we'd find that the best mac overall, in terms of both overall quality and value, is none other than H-E-B's Shells with Cheddar. Number 2 would be Annie's Shells with Cheddar, and number 3 would be Velveeta Shells and Cheese. So for us, this means we're sticking with H-E-B store brand and our beloved Annie's. And every now and then, for special occasions, we'll be splurging and getting ourselves a delicious box of processed Velveeta and Shells. So there you have it. Annie's is not in fact the best box mac in the world. But for us, it came kinda close. Of course, we haven't tried nearly as many boxed macs as Red Cow Entertainment, a group of people who've eaten hundreds of different varieties at this point. So we can't really claim any kind of authority on this question. I would just say to Frankie Frayne, Junt, and the rest of the Red Cow team that until they've tried H-E-B's Shells with Cheddar, their quest for the best boxed mac and cheese will remain incomplete. Consider this a recommendation and a challenge, both to you all to check out Red Cow Entertainment and to Red Cow to try out the H-E-B brand if they dare.
The stars at night are big and bright.
H-E-B, which ironically, I was in Texas earlier this year, and I don't know if I picked up this
You didn't.
exact
I know because I've never seen a purple Heb. Should this be a Heb show?
Starting with classic deluxe.
Very good.
Love it.
Let's try the 3 cheese now, switching off deluxes. And I'm actually kind of appreciating the small noodles. I think a lot of the cheese is getting right in there.
What's that taste? Oh, you know what? It's kind of more like a white Parmesan.
Yeah, it is. There's actually 3 cheeses in here, as opposed to Kraft, which is just like we pretend.
It is really cheesy.
There's Monterey Jack, blue cheese. I can taste the blue cheese.
Ah, that's what I'm tasting.
Cheddar cheese, of course. It's actually pretty good.
It's actually really good. They're all excellent. Heb?
I would definitely recommend any of these Macs. I wish they would come to my local store. Heb, open up a store up here, I'll buy all your Macs.
As for us, we're glad to take a break from mac and cheese, at least until Christmas, when we crack into the Velveeta with Shells. So what's your favorite boxed mac and cheese? What do you think of our top choices? Let us know in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye now.